Hello there and welcome. Studies have shown that simply listening to music can help lower stress and anxiety, help improve our moods, and help us create positive social connections. Music can help with life's events, from helping mend a broken heart, to help process a bereavement, or just an everyday accompaniment to a daily commute. A song can have an instant impact, lifting our spirits, urging our body to move, or just a simple reminder to relax and do nothing. My name is Alan Ralston. I am an accredited psychotherapist with over 20 years experience working in the mental health and addiction field. This podcast is called Music as Therapy. Each week we're going to invite a guest to come in and explore what music means to them. We'd like to invite them to bring their favourite piece of music, whether it's a song, an album, greatest hits, a symphony, a musical, whatever that is. We'd like to explore the emotional connection they've got to the piece of music. Music as Therapy podcast is a genuine call to highlight the importance of simply listening to music, about how it can help us heal at any given day. And I'm hoping for this podcast as well, that through talking to guests and feeling their passion for their music, the listeners can connect and maybe be curious to music they would never have heard before or have never really considered as being important. So we hope the gift that keeps on giving to the guests like Ian here, it could be a gift to yourselves. So first guest is my friend and author Ian McMillan. Welcome, Ian.
Thanks, Alan.
Ian is a published author. His book is called The Boy with the Thorn in His Side, and it's a social commentary of all things the football casual scene in the 80s, where he's highlighting themes of mental health and addiction woven throughout the book. Ian also is a co-founder of a local men's mental health peer group. It's been running for 2 years now. It runs every fortnight over in Blantyre. It's the Blantyre Soccer Academy. Also, they've created a bit of an outreach as well, where they're reaching people, I would say that the hardest to reach people in our population, that they've been invited up to host a group up in HMP Shotts, which they've been running successfully for over a year now.
Over a year in the prison, yeah.
Which I know is getting well received, and what he's doing with that, and the boys that help him, they're actually smashing the stigma of mental health and creating connections for boys wherever they are in their life and their journey, to come along and connect physically, but also through the WhatsApp groups and stuff. They've got 24/7 support. Something that's gravely needed, particularly for this part of the country where suicides and self-harm are absolutely through the roof. So I don't really want to talk anymore. I'd just like to move on and just maybe explore. Start for the start then, mate, if you don't mind. I think we'll speak about music and what it's brought to your life, but I'd maybe like to explore initially, not like your earliest memories. We live in Scotland, we've all got these memories, maybe particularly New Year's, listening to the Corries, Run Wriggle and stuff like that, man. But we're often influenced by parents as well at times. So what's your first memories of music, mate?
It's a bit of a funny one, Alan, because my family aren't musical at all. I wouldn't say there wasn't a lot of music played in my house out with my bedroom, really. My parents were into Kenny Rogers, and generally their record collection was a Kenny Rogers record, then it progressed to a tape, then they had a CD later on when technology evolved a wee bit. They listened to that now and again, but I don't remember music being introduced to me via the family, put it that way.
Right.
But I do remember getting gifts of records really young. There was a bit of a thing which a lot of people will probably deny now, right? When I was probably about 9 or 10, there's a bit of rockabilly thing going on, right? Where Shakin' Stevens was really big, and Shawody Wody and stuff like that, right? It was a kind of rock and roll rockabilly thing going on, right? And that's what kids were listening to, probably a lot of adults as well, obviously, right? That's probably the cheesier side of it, right?
So what age were you in it?
10.
And where did you hear it?
Top to Pops, probably.
Right, okay.
Probably Top to Pops. I mean, when I was growing up, Top to Pops was huge, man. Everybody was going to TV at 7 o'clock on a Thursday night for Top to Pops. Christmas Day, Top to Pops, probably the biggest
So
show.
at that time, that was your only outlet, really? Or your only connection? Maybe music was on the telly?
Top to Pops was a big thing on Thursday night. Sunday night the charts were on the radio.
Right.
And most people would take the charts illegally on a Thursday night, Sunday night, sorry.
Right.
And you would take the charts and you would pause your tape while the DJ was talking, just so you had the list of songs that were in the top 20 that week. And I generally remember, I'm probably biased because it's my era, but growing up in the 80s, pop music was generally quite good throughout the 80s in my opinion. Obviously there was a lot of crap there as well, right? But there was a lot of good stuff. And I still remember loads of these songs back in the day were just getting introduced to music. Most people are just listening to pop music when they're doing whatever's kind of being fed to them.
Right.
You don't have a huge opinion of your own, I suppose, at that point in time. You're just kind of listening to what's in the charts, really, until you start filtering the wheat for the chaff and getting what appeals to you a bit more, I suppose. So that's my kind of introduction to music. But music was something that did catch me from a very early age, and my passion for music's never really left me. To this day, I'm still passionate about music. It's still something I listen to daily.
So wait, is there a specific time, event or recommendation where you felt that, no, that felt sense of that passion you're talking about, where it shifted from maybe an entertaining thing, which always has been, but more so did it come a wee bit more kind of personalised?
For me, definitely, the first thing I don't really like using the word obsession, right, but the first thing that really pulled me in and really got me hooked on a particular band or a particular scene was Madness. Right. When I was, again, I'm talking about primary 7 here, right? Madness were a huge band in Britain at the time.
What year, mate?
God, man, 81, something like that, 82.
82.
Early 80s, right? I'm maybe being a bit off in my time, let's say, but early 80s, shall we say. Madness were huge. Again, quite a poppy band, Madness. When you look at the scene they were involved in, the kind of ska scene, the Specials are probably a bit more credible band, shall we say. Madness are a bit, a lot of it's quite fun music, but when you're that age, it's ideal, isn't it? It's ideal when you're that age. I still like Madness to this day, I still think they're a great band. But Madness are the first band I remember wanting to buy every one of their records, wanting to have every single, every album. I wanted to look like the band, I wanted to dance like the band, and it gave me some sort of idea of belonging to a tribe. Whether it was just being a Madness fan or, again, see when you get involved in stuff like a scene, if you like, when you're really young, you don't particularly know the roots of it or what's really the meat on the bones is. So you're just going with what you know, but Madness for me were a huge thing, do you know what I mean? I wanted to dress like Suggs, dance like Suggs. I wanted to be part of that thing, and that's the first introduction I had to fashion as well, I suppose. I think when I look back on my era of growing up, I remember when I went to secondary school, very, very tribal times in the 80s, so you had these subcultures that were going through youth culture in the school where there was groups of mods, groups of skinheads, they might have a few punks, you'd have guys who were kind of, the casual scene was filtering in a bit, so a very, very tribal time in Britain, and again in my era it was very much like that. So tribes would come and go a little bit, like stuff would filter out of fashion a bit, but for me Madness was the start of it all for me, definitely.
And it's funny you should say that, man. I think that is an absolute, it's a lost kind of social construct nowadays, where you could go into school, on a playground, whatever it is, and you could absolutely know what somebody listened to just simply by the way they dressed. And there was it was definitive lines here. It wasn't just like, there was no grey areas.
Definitely no, man.
At all like that. So where you come to kind of nowadays, that does not exist anymore.
No, I mean, when we were at school, you clearly knew who was a mod simply by how they dressed. You could tell who was into ska. Other extremes, like a Smiths fan was very obvious to see because they generally looked like Morrissey as much as they possibly could. And they were generally only the Smiths in an obsessive way. Smiths fans were very much like that. So it was very frightening times back then about what group you best identified with, I suppose.
So, sorry for the off there. Then music was meant there. It was more than just listening to music. It was being part of something that was a bit
much more
bigger than you as well.
And I think that evolved for me. And again,
so what would you be wearing then? What was the cover?
Well, at the time it would just be like Fred Perry's Stay Press, Harrington jackets, and a donkey jacket, monkey boots, Doc Martens, stuff like that. But again, things start off in a cult and they kind of filter into the mainstream where most people were wearing that sort of stuff, where they're really into it more. So that was the kind of fashion of the day. But I don't remember, clothes weren't mega expensive back then either though, so it was a bit more accessible. Most people were buying it for Easy Tongate or a market stall probably, so it wasn't mega expensive stuff, so it was a bit more obtainable for people to be in fashion. But it did start some in me in relation to music going hand in hand with fashion for sure.
So did you get the collection? Did you buy the records? Did you get the singles? Did you?
I got as many as I possibly could, but again, you're a schoolboy at the time, so you're maybe buying it off your paper round money, so you're getting as many Madness singles you can, as many albums, but people would swap albums, tape each other's albums. So most people would build a collection of records up over a long period of time. So bands would come and go to fashion, and you start buying other stuff. You buy more vinyl, and generally it'd be birthdays, Christmas, or when you had a bit more money, or if there was some coming out you really had to have there and then. If there was a record coming out, you had to go and get it. You would make the effort to get the money and go and get it.
So genuine excitement then when you saved up, or we had to wait till a birthday or a Christmas, that would be on your list to get an LP, a vinyl. There would be a real appreciation of getting this vinyl and playing it in your room and stuff like that. Would it be like a bit of a ceremony for you? Would it be that?
I think even the art of vinyl back then is obviously all we knew, right? But the art of putting that needle in the groove and hearing the crackles and waiting for your song to kick in, while you were doing that, you had the sleeve in your hand and you were looking through the pictures, you're looking at the shoes they were wearing, you're looking at the clothes they're wearing, you're reading the lyrics to the songs, and you would read this the whole time while you're listening to the album. And sometimes later in life I would buy 12-inch singles based on the cover alone. I would go into 23rd Precinct Glasgow and I would look at New Order ones that are a classic for me. I'd be buying ones I hadn't even heard because, wow, look at the cover.
Wow.
So that was always a big thing.
The artwork as well, that was a
the artwork was strange as well for vinyl. And there was some about it. And I even liked looking through, I had a mate who was a bit older than me, and I looked at records, but his taste in music was a bit different to mine. And I love looking through stuff that I didn't know anything about and just reading it and looking at it. And I can still remember loads of the covers, but I wouldn't particularly listen to the stuff he was listening to, you know.
So that was where, like you say, your kind of earlier, or was that pre-teen kind of, early teens?
That's hit teens, that's kind of 12, about 12 I would say. I started central school when I was 12.
Right. And for there, were you wearing a proper at school? Wasn't there like did you have a uniform to wear? Or?
When I started school, that sort of stuff was slightly fading out, I would say. It was slightly fading out. These things take time to die, and some people stick with them forever. Right, there's always a hardcore that never fades out for it, right?
Just still respect for this day. You see some that's still got their docks on and their turn up jeans. I think that a bit. And it's funny you mentioned that. I was with my 14 and 15-year-old son recently, and I'm just pointing out a guy. That guy's my school career, he was dressing. He's obviously his old man, is right into madness. So this boy, he did mullet, and I just thought this boy looked absolutely as individual as you could get, man. It was like it was like an act of defiance, this guy. And I was having a bit of a giggle with my boy at the time. He was walking through Hamilton and he had his girlfriend there and stuff like that. I said, where's your girlfriend? You're just dressed in black Nike here, like, what I mean, different shades of grey and black, stuff like that. So that sticks out immediately, but back then it didn't. But still, it was very much a badge of honour.
Aye, definitely. You were kind of tying your colours to the mast, as it were, showing the world what you were into. I think some subcultures age better than others, though. There's none worse than a 60-year-old punk, do you know what I mean? But a 60-year-old mod can still pull it off. Do you know what I mean? And some of that stuff, you need to wear it doing a wee bit according to your age as well. If you've seen a guy with jam shoes on when they're in their 50s, it's like, come on mate, turn it up. But if they wear certain looks, it can still be really stylish. And to those that know will still know where that guy's background comes from and how they got into that.
And that's like, and I think that as well, man, that's a very important kind of stage of development as well, man. We're trying to work out who we are and where we fit in this big bad world at that age of our teens, and I think music plays such a huge part in that, finding out who you are and what tribe you want to be with at times, and you know, you're maybe experiencing all these mad emotions and different things that's hitting you, and you've no words for them. You know, you can't put words to these feelings you've got. I think music can offer that insight into some of the, you know, exploring some of the challenges we've got. And was that like, so moving on for madness, mate? Did you find solace, or were you getting more into leaning more into different kind of genres of music there as well?
I think I mean, this is probably, I was probably a bit late to the party with this, looking back, right? Because I mean, the Jam split up in '82, right? But I was probably getting into them about then, right? But if looking back then, the Jam were a band that were popular for a long time after they split up, right? Everybody always liked the Jam, but I was just getting to an age where I was discovering them.
Right.
So that's why I was late to the party, because I was too young for that.
So who introduced you to them then? Can you remember?
I don't remember it. No, I genuinely don't.
You can't remember what I heard, mate, listen to that?
I remember the first one I borrowed for somebody was the Jam Snap, which was their greatest hits, which obviously are the big hits. But there was an appeal to it because you looked at mods when you hit secondary school and they were the cool kids, really.
Okay.
They had a real style to them.
Right.
And when you look, Paul Weller was a fashion icon from '77 to the now.
Right.
Paul Weller was always ahead of the game when it came to style, and when you're into something like madness to start with and you hear the Jam, I can only describe it as, it felt like the Jam were a bit like a grown-up madness.
Right.
To me, they had a similar, there was something similar to them, and the fact that they dressed a particular way, they sung a lot of angry songs, they appealed to young people, but they spoke about more political stuff, they spoke a bit more in depth about love, they spoke about other stuff that opened your world up a wee bit.
I suppose that's perfect time as you're getting older and think about it, all these things that going through that age. I think we're the only person in the world that maybe, especially if you, well, maybe the first time you've had a knockback or something like that, or you really fancy her and you're trying to work out how do you approach her, you know what I mean? A lassie you fancy, and you could come across a lyric in a song and exploring that, and it's like, wow, man, I'm not the only person in the world that's experiencing this. So was it more, did you shift more, like you say, it was kind of poppy, dancey, feel good stuff? So into the Jam, was it more like lyrically, you're looking at it, can you remember an age where you're looking at lyrics and all that, didn't you?
I think I always did look at lyrics a bit, to be honest with you. I think, I mean, I've had these chats with people about music many times. Some people like the groovy music, or they'll like the riff, or they'll like whatever. With me, some of the lyrics, to me, music is sort of stories or poems with music in the background, really. I like the lyrics about songs, that's what I like about it. My favourite kind of music's probably raw stuff, it's just a guitar and a voice. And that's what I like about it, and I like that emotional connection. And I like people who are clever with their words as well. And I remember when I was young, even looking up the dictionary and learning, oh, that's what he means by that. Like, there's a lyric in a Jam song, what a catalyst you turned out to be, eating rifles, and I didn't know what a catalyst was at the time, I remember. And I remember having to find out what a catalyst was, and having to look that up at the time. So there was an education even into stuff like that, look at what a word meant to you. And I've always wanted to know what a band's name means, why they chose that name, and what their songs were about. And what I like about that is some of the stuff you were introduced to maybe in your adolescence, the penny will only drop till you get a bit older, when you see a bit of life go, that's what he was talking about now, or you don't really get where he's coming through that type of music even, and it'll come to you later.
And that's the beauty of music, but you would have your own interpretation back then of that, and often when I've maybe listened to music I've heard and actually maybe came across the lyrics for the first time, oh, that's what they're saying, but I had mine, and I think the artists would quite like that too. It's like either maybe try to communicate and say something to you, but see at the same time it's like you're personalising it. That means me, and it's like maybe like you say when you're old and getting a wee bit on and getting older, mate, you can actually say, all right, this is what you meant. But I think there's kind of almost like a romantic feel to that, man. You know what I mean? That was like then, and it served a purpose then, and it can move and evolve with time. I think that's the beauty of good music, mate.
I think when you're really young, music is a dead personal thing, because you're generally just listening in your bedroom on your own, or if you're fortunate enough to have a Walkman, you're listening on that, because you're not listening in social settings as you do when you're older.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean? I think for me, music's a very personal relationship, but I think the beauty is you can listen to it on your own, and it's like your personal relationship with the artist or the album or the song. But you take it in another setting and you go to the Barrowlands and there's 3,000 folk in there and that same song's played and there's 3,000 of you singing every word. There's a total unity with it, and everybody's there together listening to that song, and it brings you together at the same time. I think that's one of the beauties of it. I'll only relate the same feeling as when you're at a football match and your team scores a goal. It's a similar feel to that, hair standing on the back of your neck stuff, just that unity for a minute.
Aye. That you are part of something greater than yourself.
Exactly.
It's so joyful in that time. Would you say it could even be quite spiritual then?
I definitely think on a surface level you're not thinking about that at the time. You don't think about it. Only when you take it away and you analyse it, you can see the similarities between that and people practising religion. How that would be, you can see how a lot of religions, they practice singing, they practice musical stuff together, because it brings a unity to the people, or higher consciousness, I suppose. And that's probably where I get that feeling from, where I'm at a gig, and I think when you go to gigs when you're young, in particular, life is better when you're young in that respect, because you're carefree, and you get the moments where the hairs will be back of your neck standing on end, or you're jumping about with your mates bouncing at a song. When you walk out, you only remember that, but you don't remember the 2 or 3 songs that were a bit dull. You remember the highlights, and the next time you want to go to the Barrowlands or you want to go to a gig, that's what you're chasing again. If you want that moment, that's what you're chasing again, you want that moment.
And that's greater than a mental event too. You feel that in your body and your soul, don't you? That is a felt sense, that is like in your soul, or whatever you want to call it. But that, I think that, you know, when you talk about kind of music as therapy and stuff like that, it's not just like a head, it's not just, you know, you don't just feel that in your thoughts and stuff like that, man. It's actually a lived, felt experience in that. I think obviously when it ties in when you go to see some live music, man, it's almost like the vibration of that music you've listened to, particularly if you've listened to it for a long time, man, in unison with people who also love and appreciate just as much as you. And that, to me, is energy. Is this, and I think it's the bits in between the music sometimes that is the, you know, where the beauty lies too, you know, that connection, it really is. And it sounds like as well, what you were saying, you would have loved the kind of the raw version of music where it's just a singer and a guitar. It sounds like when many people maybe were listening to jam, want to pick up a Rickenback. Maybe yourself, it's like, oh, I'm maybe kind of a wordsmith kind of thing, and that maybe you're maybe not connected to that then, but you're getting more than half, or just as much after lyrics as you said. Some people are into the beat and the groovy music. It was the nuts and bolts for you.
I think starting back and listening to what the guy was trying to say and what he's trying to communicate, what he meant behind it, it's always been what it's been about for me. I've got quite a few books in the house just with song lyrics, and I can lie and read them the way somebody would read poetry, I suppose. But in my class, my generation, it's about music for me. Poems are probably a thing that I don't look at very often, do you know what I mean?
I suppose you must have been massively challenged with the rave scene and all that, this soulless electronic beat all the time.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because as music kind of progresses, like after the kind of jam era, I suppose, when I was at school, it was kind of Simple Minds and U2 were the popular big bands, I suppose. Then when I left school, the kind of tsunami bands that came out of Manchester was like the Charlatans and Spiral Carpets, Stone Roses, and again that kind of opened the doors a bit wider again, introducing a new type of music, but it coincided with the acid house rave culture kicking off, and probably half the country chose to go down that road. They listened to dance music. For years, everywhere you went, it was dancing, everybody's motor and everybody's house, and the gym, you name it, dance music was the most popular music. But it never ever really appealed to me for that reason. Obviously, in the moment when you've got particular mood enhancers, certain songs will hit the spot, right? But I never listened to it out with the event. If I was at a rave when I went home, I didn't listen to dance music, I didn't listen to my motor, didn't listen to it on my Walkman. I just didn't, it didn't really appeal to me in that sense.
Right.
Where sometimes I see the guys who are my age now, they still have got to the events, they do a bit of DJing or whatever. I kind of feel a bit envious. I wish I did feel what you felt about this, but it does nothing for me.
So it was Mayor, and I suppose that kind of that's the appeal in Manchester as well, Stoners and stuff like that, and Happy Mondays. That was a kind of bridge. It was kind of dancey, but at the same time, the lyrics were still tight. There was musicians playing instruments as well, so there was a bit of crossover there, man. But for yourself, it was still going to the jam. So is the jam always been like a kind of first love, would you say?
Without a shadow of a doubt.
So, although we're saying that's what you listened to back then, you've never stopped listening to the jam, is it fair to say that?
Well, I go and see Paul Weller when he tours constantly, right? And some people make a bit of a joke about it and they think I'm going to listen to Go Underground twice a year, right? But I mean, when Paul Weller spotted the jam, the Style Council came out immediately after. So he had his years in the Style Council thereafter. Then there's a bit of a gap when he came out solo. So there's a constant evolution in music Paul Weller's bringing out, really. Which obviously your first one's going to be the jam, which the majority of people who like Paul Weller would have been introduced to him through the jam. I'm not saying there's a lot of people who would have got on board a bit later, maybe in the 90s or whatever, when he brought a big album like Stanley Road out. But the majority of people started off with the jam and they followed his career throughout. I think, I know before with Paul Weller about that a lot of his fans are loyal, I would say, rather than obsessive. They'll follow him everywhere, they'll go to mace gigs, they'll have every record, etc. Right? That's not unusual. The only fans I've probably seen more obsessive in some respects are probably Morrissey fans. Morrissey, if you go to a Morrissey gig, it's half the guys in there are Morrissey clones, you know what I mean?
How do you think that is then? It's like, you know what I mean, there isn't a lot of artists out there that you know, that you could say like throughout your lifetime they have influenced and you've always like listened to them and read interviews and been interested in what they're into and stuff like that. What's the appeal then? Was it seen with the jam as well? Did you see something in Paul Weller that you maybe, the qualities that you maybe look up to yourself, like, man, was there certain...
I think you've probably hit the nail on the head there in some respect, right? Not that I'm comparing myself to Paul Weller, right, but a lot of my pals who also like Paul Weller, I'm friends with them because they're that type of guy who likes Paul Weller, right? They probably like that kind of music. They probably got an interest in clothes, they might like scooters as well, and they're kind of compassionate people who have got a sensitive side to them, I would say. Right? So if you're introduced to the jam when you're a youngster and you're starting over in the city and it's almost a punky album, three chords, heavy riffs, angry songs about young people growing up. Even the jam evolved slightly thereafter and introduced brass instruments. It gets a bit more soulful near the end of it. When he hits the Style Council, he's introducing me to a type of music that, as a young man, I wasn't aware that mods were into this soul music back in the day. So he's introducing a sort of soul vibe with a European feel to the dress now, because he's travelling a bit more. So a lot of that stuff, good pop music at the time, but you don't quite get it till you investigate it when you're a bit older. So you look back at the Style Council and go, I know exactly where this is coming from, I know what his influences are. I know where his travelling's come into it, and I know what he's trying to say now. Whereas a lot of people would have written him off at that point in time because they want a new jam, and it's evolving thereafter. So I think, to answer your initial question, I'm diversifying a bit here. I think you're growing up with him. So if you've identified someone when you're young with Paul Weller, you're moving with him, he's going through his life and he's writing about it, and you're identifying with it as you grow up with him as well.
I think as well, like, you maybe look as a youngster and look at him and how talented he was, and still is, mate, and you'd maybe look at somebody like him and saying, oh, he's like, you know, got everything I ever wanted as well. But I think sometimes the gift is growing older with your artists as well. You say, well, they're just flawed, he's just a flawed man, the same as me and everybody else, that we've got our ups and downs and struggles with life, and he's might have that gift to communicate that and hide behind sometimes the lyrics and stuff like that. So I think it's, you you know, it's maybe like the full circle coming around to see him as just a person as well, which I think is a purely a noise, no, some demigod, because I, you know, looking at the Gallagher brothers at a time, you know, when I was sitting, you know, you could think, wow, man, there's no a word that he or they say that I don't want to connect with in some level on my interpretation, and then, you know, when you get older, it's just like you could see Leo, it's just a bit of banger at times and all that, man.
Exactly.
Irreplaceable though, absolutely. I mean, you could say, you could go through, oh, they could be better singers, but that is it, the grit and the appeal and the working classness of it all, it was the full lot, mate. It was, he's stern, he just looked like somebody for a scheme. I think with Paul Weller, a wee bit kind of refined there a wee bit, I would say, a wee bit shyer.
Aye, more refined than the Gallagher's in a lot of way, but again, for a working class background,
Right.
singing about working class stuff,
Right.
probably a wee bit more aspirational than the Gallagher's in certain ways. But there are a lot of similarities there, definitely. But again, the Jam will have inspired the Gallagher's.
Yep.
Do you mean there's bands that have inspired the Jam prior to that? 60s bands like the Beatles, the Small Faces will inspire the Jam. Then the Jam will have on to inspire many other bands, Oasis, Blur. Anybody who's probably had that hairdo in the past 30 years been inspired by the Jam.
That's up in line as well, is it? No, I heard it. I know sometimes trends where guys are just with the Parkers and they, you know what I mean, I'm maybe just jealous because I've not got any hair, man, but that, if I did, if I didn't, wouldn't pick that one kind of thing, mate. But it isn't, I with that as well, see what the style council and all that as well, and I think the same as Damien Albarn as well. See, looking back, they've reinvented themselves many times. You could see that the Gallagher's as a one-trick pony. However, that pony was absolutely fantastic, and the pony's still running. They were going to get the gigs at summertime and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it's not they were good at what they done, and they still are kind of. You know what I mean?
Looking at Oasis, back in the day, when I look back, I loved Oasis as well, right? I was a big fan of Oasis. I had all their stuff and I went to see them a few times. But for me, they hit the spot right at that time in my life when I was 23, 24. You wanted cigarettes and alcohol was a big thing in your life. You want to get mad for that. You want to do all that stuff, and it's dead appealing to young men. Now I'm a bit older and a bit wiser. They don't hold the same appeal to me. Whereas the appeal of the Jam, for example, doesn't lose me because I've grew up a bit and because my behaviour's got a bit better and I'm not as hedonistic as I used to be. Bands like Oasis, for example, lose that for me a wee bit. I'll dip my toe in a bit of nostalgia and listen to them now and again, but they don't hold very much for me any longer.
Right. So it's no, at a time it was relevant to your life, but thereafter, and I think that's where maybe Noel Gallagher struggled as well. He's been quoted saying that there's only so many albums you can write for a garage or a wee shed where he was writing, and when the singles started selling and the money started rolling in, and it's a lot harder to do it in a country house or in a penthouse in North London or something like that, man. I think that's where he maybe struggled to sell. So with the Manchester and stuff like that, so would you say like the Jam that would be in the background and stuff like that, and did you ever see them live, mate?
No, too young, mate.
Right.
Too young. The Style Council played the last gig in the Glasgow Apollo, believe it or not.
Wow.
But again, I'd have been about, I don't know, again I'm guessing they're 13 or 14. I know a couple of guys that were there who are a few years older than me.
Right.
They're maybe in their 15, 16. But the Style Council played the last gig in the Apollo ever. And a lot of people were leaving the gig partly with seats on their arms and stuff like that to take our souvenirs back before they demolished the building.
So is that a standout song for you, would you say, in the Jam, then? Or would it be maybe an album?
I'd say my favourite Jam song of all time is Ghosts, right? And if you listen to the song, it's one of their mellower songs, shall we say. Quite a sentimental number. And it's quite an introspective kind of song about looking about yourself.
Right. And
what I like about all of that stuff is it generally, a lot of music I like, it generally kind of highlights humanity and our flaws, but it kind of points towards positivity.
Right.
I would say, I was something I think of this before you asked me to come on here, it points towards positivity, because a lot of my music taste, I remember years ago when I just got my PC, and I was making up CDs. I remember I was going to give you one at the time. You were like, I don't like your top 10 funeral songs. And it kind of says a lot about my taste.
Oh, really?
Oh, I remember. So it says a lot about my taste in music.
Right,
I suppose
okay, yeah.
fairly laid back, morose. Like I'd probably say there's certain genres I really like, but I really like Bob Dylan, for example. I like Mick Drake. I love John Martin. Donovan. I like a lot of stuff that's a bit folky. I like Pink Floyd. I like stuff like that. So stuff that's quite not the most upbeat, positive stuff in the world. But I like the melancholic feeling I get with listening to it. And I like the fact that they've thought quite deeply about what they're writing as well. I think like that.
So there was a sense, see with the melancholy and stuff like that, I think was that maybe like accompanying to just maybe the ups and downs of your life? Was there a degree of understanding yourself, and understanding you're not the only one that's feeling this way in regards to that kind of music you're listening to, mate?
Well, I think you made a good point earlier when you talked again about Paul Weller, looking at him as a heroic figure when you're growing up, as if these people are flawless and they don't have any worries. I think when you're young, you tend to view the world a bit like that. You tend to think any issues you've got, nobody else has got them, you're the only one that's got any issues. So you kind of look at other people and go, sorry for him, he's got it all going on. Or he doesn't feel how I feel, or sorry for him, he's got what he wants to get. But it's not until you get older and you have a bit more courage to open up and you speak to similar people, they'll share the same thoughts, feelings, insecurities and struggles in the younger age you did, and you get a wee bit more honest about it. And particularly I think young men are dead competitive when they grow up and they're full of testosterone and nobody wants to show any weakness. And I think in our era we were pretty cruel to each other when it came down to ridiculing each other with slaggings and stuff like that. So if you had any weakness around like you just didn't show it, do you know what I mean? You kept it inside, you didn't tell anybody about it. Better still, as a defence mechanism, you gave it out as much as you could. So I think when you realise celebrities or musicians or human beings and all, and if they're going to write down their insecurities, put it out there for the world, it validates some of yours as well, I think.
So there's a part of you seeking solace in the lyrics and in the raw music then, in the...
I think so. I wouldn't say it affects me more in happy times, sad times, glad times. I think they're just a part of my personality that likes melancholy. I like that kind of vibe. I like the relaxation feeling it. That's just who I am, I suppose, when it comes to music. I'm a person who struggles. See, like when I go to the gym, for example, and want to go run, I want to make up a playlist of upbeat tunes. I kind of get to 5 songs and I'm kind of snookered after that. I don't listen to a lot of dead upbeat stuff. I think that's just part of my personality, like that kind of stuff. I think you can tell a lot about a person with what kind of music they like.
What do you mean, mate?
Well, if you get somebody where they just like instrumental dance stuff, for example, they might not be into self-examination. They're just into the fun of it, and they like the groove, they like the beat. Somebody who's into aggressive punk music might like to get their anger out that way. Do you know what I mean? You can tell a lot about how, I don't know, the depth of a person in some respects of what taste of music they've got and their worldview, what it's like. So, moving on then, would you like to, see, since we're talking about Paul Weller and stuff like that, man, we want to, each week when a guest comes on, I'd like to explore your favourite album or greatest hits. Would it be a good time, or you get anything you read about that era? Is there anything else you want to... Well, you asked me to bring along one album, right? But I've took the liberty bringing 2, right, for a reason. When the Style Council kind of split up, Weller kind of goes out of fashion for a wee bit, right? The last album the Style Council got to release, the record company knocked it back and it wasn't released until years later. So Paul Weller was kind of out of fashion at this point in time. And he came out... What year you talking about, sorry, in 2010? That would be the late 80s. Right, so in the late 80s, Weller was kind of out of fashion a wee bit, I'd say, wasn't that cool. So the Style Council were finished up and Weller's in the wilderness a wee bit here. And he kind of came back out known for a short period of time as the Paul Weller movement. The Paul Weller movement just went out and did gigs. Basically, he was hurling out some of his old songs just to get a bit of popularity again, and put a loaf on the table really.
Mm-hmm.
But also, the first album Paul Weller brought out is this one here, which is just Paul Weller.
Right, okay.
Right. So when he brought this album out here, he's in a period of self-reflection and self-doubt, I suppose, because his career's kind of gone nowhere.
Right.
He's trying to get it back up again. And if you look at the track listing here, right, a lot of this stuff here is nostalgic for him, where he talks about going back to his hometown, and there's a song there called Bitterness Rising, and a particular favourite of mine is Above the Clouds, right? That's one of my favourite Paul Weller tunes.
I didn't know that was on the album.
Right, so Above the Clouds, if you listen to most of this stuff here, it's kind of nostalgic for him, going back to home, where it all started for him, trying to find himself again, and try to regroup and get this off the ground again. The first album, it's a cracking piece of work. Paul Weller's first album was really, really good, one of my favourites.
Did you buy this at the time, mate?
This is a fairly new copy, but I had at the time the CD.
Right, okay.
Right, but I purchased this fairly recently. That's not an original pressing or anything like that.
Okay.
But I had on CD at the time,
Right, okay.
because I was buying CDs. So that album means about a guy who's kind of, like you say, he's a heroic figure to you, and he's full of self-doubt, and he's trying to keep himself above water and get his career off the ground again and get back into music and see where it takes him. So I think that's a good introduction to Paul Weller solo stuff for the listeners as well, is get a bit of background. But my favourite album, and again, if you put a gun in my head, my favourite album, not just the Paul Weller's, but probably all time, is this one here.
Okay.
Which is Wildwood.
Wildwood.
Right, so he's a bit more established again in the music industry. He's gaining a bit of popularity again, Paul Weller. I've probably about 21 or 22 when this came out.
Okay.
Right.
When was it out, mate?
93, something like that.
Right, okay.
94 maybe. Again, just a rough guess with them.
93.
93, 94, right. So we brought this album out. There's a clear influence to a lot of the 60s stuff that Weller's been influenced by on here, right? But slightly different than before. It's got a very kind of folky, summery feel to it. A lot of it has, there's a few out and out instrumental tracks on here. The title track, Wildwood, is a subliminal song, man. If you ever hear Wildwood live, start off a particular acoustic riff, and the lyrics are extremely positive about trying to find his way out the wild, wild wood.
Right.
But it's full of positivity when you look underneath that melancholic feeling. It's full of positivity.
Right. Was that speak to you, or was that like kind of at that age, 23? Was there particular struggles, or was it just things catching up? Were you connected with the kind of getting out the wild wood and stuff like that? Did that make sense to you?
It made a lot of sense to me. I think one, it appeals to my taste in music greatly.
Right.
It's by my favourite artists.
Yes.
But also, I think for a lot of people, not just me, your 20s are one of your toughest decades.
Right.
Because you're finding a decade where responsibilities coming your way. You're trying to establish yourself. Where am I going with my career? Where am I going? How am I going to make a living? Where am I going to live? You're establishing yourself in relationships a wee bit, and you're trying to navigate your way through affairs of the heart. And for me, about this time in my life, when I went through that whole rave thing, we probably started smoking dope when I was about 17, right?
Right.
And for years after that, I was kind of listening to Bob Dylan and Donovan and Simon Garfunkel and Pink Floyd's and Bob Marley's and a lot of the cliched dope smoking bands. Probably when 4 or 5 years into that, shall we say, raving every weekend, taking amphetamines and ecstasy and all that, my anxiety levels were getting pretty high at the time.
Right.
So I started a bit of lifestyle change at this point, and I stopped doing all that kind of stuff. And you're kind of trying to figure out your sense of self a wee bit more after that, and figure out what you're all about. And I remember trying to emulate some other guys, like do what they do, self and go to the gym and stuff like that, to kind of figure out what I'm all about. So that probably resonated a great deal with me at the time. I've read many books on Weller as well, and there's a guy called Paulo Hewitt, who's a writer and ex-friend of Paul Weller. He tells a story in one of his books about the song where Paulo Hewitt grew up the complete opposite of Paul Weller, in the respect that Weller came from a loving family with a supportive mother and father.
What did they?
Paulo Hewitt was brought up in a children's home.
Wow.
Right, so one night they were out on the drink and Paul was out, Trauma got the better, everybody broke down greeting about it all. And Well wrote that song, influenced by that.
Wellwood?
Yep.
Right.
So if you listen to the lyrics knowing that wee bit of background about it, it makes a great deal of sense.
It would do, mate.
So it's about his friend's struggle. They've since failed it actually, but he writes a lot about that. And there's still a bit of this about King Healy's Holy Man. All the pictures on the walls are a very nostalgic song. The song Country's very, very acousticy. I'm sure Steve Winwood plays on this album as well. So you've got a lot of stuff there that's kind of maybe influenced by the 60s folky stuff at the time. Very kind of summery album, but very a lot of positivity in there. So anybody who's no listened to this album or no checked it out, I'd highly, highly recommend it. It's definitely a favourite of mine.
And was there, in regards to the lyrics on that, was there a kind of mic drop moment for you? Was there a sense that you were reading that and you felt completely understood in that moment with some of your struggles? Was there anything relatable to you there, mate? I know you maybe says about the Wildwood and stuff like that, but did it help you sometimes? Because see, like in your 20s, like you said, man, there's a lot of figuring out. It's dead tough your 20s, right? Because I think a lot of us have got the shoulds and musts. I should be doing better. You know what I mean? It's like we're kind of caught between that kind of moving out the teenage years, and I think maybe growing up in the 80s and 90s as well, I tend to, my recollection of people who were brought up in the 70s, a lot of them had kids dead young.
Yep.
So we were maybe like, you should, get a trade son and all that carry on, like, you know what I mean? Is that probably that was a lyric as well, man. But anyway, so I think there's that, I had a sense at the age of 24 storing in Hamilton Palace, thinking, it's over. This is storing next to me, it was my best pal, 3 brothers and stuff, man. I'm like that. I've been gone here for 8 years, man. I felt a veteran at 24. And I think that maybe, for me, it was maybe, and I'm surprised you were never really into a band like Radiohead.
I like the first 2 albums,
right?
But the first album I just love Creep, to be honest.
Right.
The second one, the first one's Pablo Honey, the second one's the Benz, is that right?
Aye.
They had the Benz, I thought was excellent. I thought it was really, really good. See, by this point in time, I think going through that dope smoking phase, as it were, the doors of music really, really open up.
Okay.
And you start listening to a lot more stuff, because music and smoking dope seems to go hand in hand. You're mingling a lot of more musos then, and you get introduced to a lot more stuff. Generally, a lot of older stuff. I always like 60s music. I've been a big fan of 60s music since I was young. So you're getting a lot of any new bands that come out where you're young, your fingers on the pulse really. And somebody might say to you, this band Radiohead, or check them out, or you heard the Stereophonics. Remember somebody gave me their CD when they first came out. Check this out, check that out. And the guys who are into music are sharing stuff that's going on. But there's a sadness at some point along the lines, your finger comes off the pulse a wee bit and you're not quite knowing what's happening. And then when new bands they come along and you find yourself at a gig and you're standing on the sidelines with the band's mum and dad, you think I'm a bit too fucking old to be in here, do you know what I mean? So you're not going to move on to the next scene, as it were. And sometimes that takes you to the plan. For me, I started listening a lot of Motown, a lot of Northern Soul, and looking into older music. And there's a lot of stuff, I think in the 80s, there's a lot of artists about the time. I'll give an example: Stevie Wonder, David Bowie, Billy Joel, Bruce Springsteen were kind of shite about that era. Right, it's probably their worst stuff.
Really?
So if you listen to Stevie Wonder's bringing out I Just Called to Say I Love You,
Aye,
and people are telling you listen to Stevie Wonder and you're like, what? But then later on you realise this is the kind of twilight his career he's got here, and you go back into the back catalogue and you get songs in the key of life or Inner Visions and you think, right, now I know what you're talking about. Then somebody will say, oh, you like that? Get Marvin Gaye. Get What's Going On, or get Let's Get It On. And you go, oh wow man, this is different again, this is brilliant. And it'll take you down another road to listen to soul for a bit. And I've always liked listening to music in genres. You know, you get these guys who've got a playlist now on their Spotify where they'll be driving in their motor and it's like a dance track, then it's followed by a Pink Floyd song, then it's followed by a Radiohead song, and I'm like, I don't do that, man. I like if I'm listening to folk music, I like folk for a week. Then the next
Right.
week it'll be soul for that week. It's a soul vibe I'm on. The next week it'll be some other vibe I'm on. But I like keeping that vibe, like doing that.
And will you be listening to albums, or is it like, you know, you can do the route of streaming songs and stuff typically, what we talk, do you make time to listen to?
Well, in all honesty, I don't listen to records as much as I would like to. I tend to do it once a week, maybe once a fortnight, where I'm sitting on my own late at night. I'll stick a few tunes on. Like,
Right.
I buy my vinyl very selectively for that reason. I buy
Right.
stuff that's pretty mellow,
Right.
that I can kick back and relax to. I don't just buy anything that comes out. I'll buy stuff that I really like or I really want to have in my record collection. I don't have a great deal of vinyl these days. I've maybe got about 50 albums, say. I do stream like everybody else now. I resisted it for a long time, but it's such a convenient way of doing it. But there's big debate, the pros and cons of streaming music. It's great if I'm telling you about an album right now, you can click your phone, download it, and you can listen to it there and then. Or you can get an artist where you're not a particular big fan, but you can just bang a few of their tunes down that you like a few of their tunes. You can explore music quicker. But the value in music seems to have been diluted a wee bit. I think when you're having to go and buy it, you'll cherish it a bit more, and you'll listen to that album over and over and over until you're sick of it, and you'll read the cover to cover. And I remember talking about Oasis there, I remember taking a half day for What Would Be Here Now come out, so he got into tune and buy the album when it came out, and at that point in time I was in my late 20s when that album came out. I was still doing that then because I had to have it that day to check it out, and straight away you're listening to it and it's over and over again till you know every word to every song, and you're comparing what songs you like best with your mates and blah blah blah, and then you think come out, and that kind of stuff leaves you eventually when you get a wee bit older, I think. But part of the beauty of that is your music taste is far more open, you're more open-minded about stuff. Going back to the initial stages of getting into music, your thinking's dead black and white. It's like heavy metal, shite, odd stuff, good, that stuff, no chance. And it's a bit about that
You connect with people as well.
Aye, exactly.
Blues hard, that stuff, man, what I mean.
And it's back to that tribal stuff, I think. Whereas I was a bit of a secret Spandau Ballet fan, I suppose, but you didn't want to admit it to your mates at the time.
I think it's just like, so there's a certain like, there's a dilution in music then, or appreciation, I think, you know, with the charts getting just obliterated. There's no such thing really as charts now, and I think MTV was a massive thing as well, to sit down and enjoy the music videos and all that. I mean, all that seems to be just gone now, and I think there's a certain sadness to that, and what you're talking about, you would save up, or moving on, you would take a half day and get in, and even queuing up for a gig, man, that would be massive as well. So I think there would be massive investment into you just owning that when it came out, taking time out to get in. I think it was all part, you know, maybe you maybe bought it in some of the shops, like maybe in Hamilton and stuff like that. And the journey, the bus journey, knowing that you've got your cash there, your 12 quid or whatever it is to go and buy that, man, it's a full day out.
Aye.
It's a full memorable experience that, you know what I mean, like now it's just, you know, there's a certain sadness that I hope people do go and listen to Wildwood and stuff like that, but they certainly don't need to invest their time and you know what I mean, and going out and looking for, you know, and then finding out the different ones as well. They can go straight away to their streaming, their YouTube and stuff like that. And I do like that myself. I find myself, well, still to this day listening to music forever. I still like the visual as well. I still love, I find myself going on to like YouTube or even the archives of BBC and looking like little top and pops kind of thing, and I think with the dilution of listening to music, they're also, you know, you spoke about Madness and that, man, but they had a full band of brass instruments behind them and still having a good carry on.
Exactly.
But ultimately they were all musicians. And I don't know too much of their background or anything like that, but you know, they might have been classically trained, some of them, or you know, certainly Paul Weller's you know, skills as a guitarist is no doubt, you know, that as well. You know what I mean? It's just a lot of that. It's just I see it now because I've got a 13 or 15-year-old son, and I'm trying to, and I've got them their own Spotify accounts, but they don't really listen to anything at all. They don't have. I mean, see if there's a a tune comes on the radio, or one up, there was one up on the other night there, for Radiohead, and my boys like, oh, that's a song off of FIFA. So, I mean, that's their only connection. If they're
they get their tunes for PlayStation games or Xbox or whatever. I think it's a bit of sad reflection of music today when a lot of guys who are in their late teens and now, their favourite band's the Stone Roses or their favourite band's the Smiths. So it seems to be anybody who is a bit unusual and likes music is grabbing stuff for the previous generation's music, which in some ways it's nice that they're discovering it, right? But in other ways, nobody's producing any stuff that's getting them their own scene or getting them their own vibrant music. There's none coming out. Even if there's any other younger, newer bands coming out, they're kind of replicating stuff that we had in the 90s. Even the way they look's probably the same as that. So it doesn't seem to evolve the same way. There's no tribes out there any longer. There's no scene as such. I mean, young people don't even tend to go to the pub the same way or go to the weekends. So they don't have that kind of party lifestyle or where music's playing a big role in their life.
And I heard that actually, as it's completely changed now. It was in a podcast as well. I think it was one of the chaps on it. He was like a bouncer. He does a podcast with a UFC fighter, and he's a bouncer. He manages like a nightclub in Edinburgh, and he says in 10 years' time there'll be 2 nightclubs in Glasgow and 1 in Edinburgh. He says the kids just ain't one. You know what I mean? He says you look at Starbucks compared to nightclubs and boozers now, and it's just like, it's completely changing all that, man.
I mean, I don't think the drink culture's changed for some reason, but the pub culture's certainly changed. When we were young, you would do it Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday if you didn't have cash to do it, and you would go to the most music-driven events that you possibly could. And I remember, see when the festival started becoming popular, Tainley Park obviously being the main one, being local to Hamilton at one point, then moved up to Ballado. I remember the first festivals going to them, people would have the alarm around their neck with who was coming on stage when, and you walk about and go, right, at 3 o'clock I want to see them, half 4 we'll go and see them, people come up and ask you, can I see that when such and such on? And it was all guys that were really into music for a good time. Within about 4 or 5 years, people just wanted to go to Tainley Park to get mad with it, and they didn't have any inclination to watch bands. It just, who'd you see her? I just got to get mad with it. And it was like, there's something about this is meant to be about people enjoying music and enjoying music culture, and it's not just enjoying drug culture now.
I think that's why things like Glastonbury and stuff like that are just have such importance to a lot of people, but it's maybe like a dying breed of people who make that journey and go down, and it's almost like a pilgrimage down to Glastonbury and Merrill's and Land, you know what I mean? Is there any, I mean, for me and myself, I try to, at times, like, if you looked at my Spotify, it's just like often a collection of 90s music, you know what I mean? I've just pegged myself into this kind of, you know what I mean, and the algorithm's just following me. And at times it will throw up, oh, listen, that's not Black Day chance kind of thing, but I do try my hardest. I still listen to, some of the podcasts, and is it Pitchfork? They maybe ask, I still, listen to artists talk about their favourite music as well. I'll still try to get myself introduced to new music, new plans, new soundtracks and stuff. Like, I came across one recently, the soundtrack to Blade Runner. It was a woman for the band, is it Christina and the Queens? It's a French lassie. It was talking about it. And I thought, no, I'm going to get a go, and I could because I've got Spotify. I didn't need to jump a bus and you didn't hang around like that, and actually I was like, wow, man. And she was talking about the different layers and how atmospheric it was, and I've struggled to watch the movie, but I've watched it since then. So see for yourself, mate, is there anything, do you try and keep that like a 5% or a 10% open to new music, new recommendations or anything like that, mate?
Well, some of it's just new music to me. Right. What I mean is, I'll have a Google modern soul music, what modern soul artists out there are good, and I might check that out.
Right.
Probably know somebody that's recommended me. New bands that come my way are few and far between now. I think we are all guilty of getting set in our ways, and there's something about listening to new bands when they're 21 and you're 51, it's a bit less appealing, shall we say, as well, I think. But now and again, bands will come my way. Like, there was a Glasgow band called Admiral Fallow, I really like them, they're still on the go, they're really good. I really like Fighting Rabbit when they came out, they were good as well. I don't mind Jerry Cinnamon. Jamie Webster, the Scouse guy, I quite like him. They're probably not that current for the youth, as it were. But for me, so now and again a band will come my way and I'll get into them. But I really like the Rifles. Again, fairly new, the last 10 years it probably came out. I like The Enemy, I like stuff like that. But again, they're kind of repetition of 80s stuff. Do you know what I mean? There's no kind of, there's no new vibe going on there. Do you know what I mean? They're just kind of modern mod band, shall we say.
Right, and you always have that comparison. But I think the first time that it's like your first love, man. It's like the first time it opened your mind, it just like you totally got it and you understood it. I think for me that will never like kind of leave you, and you always go back to that. I think like there will be bands that will come and go and stuff like that, but I think your teens and stuff are such an important age. That's how I'm quite sad for the teens of the now. They don't have that, waste them anyway, kind of thing. Don't have that connection and that outlet as an art form. Because and I think a lot is getting, for me, that means like it's a lot of working class boys that are going through, because a lot of different forms of art galleries and that and stuff like that have been priced out, a lot of the forms, and it doesn't cost any money to listen, buttons to listen to good music and stuff like that. So I think it's like an art form that has always been very accessible, probably the most accessible art form there is, and for that to kind of not have the impact it's had with us, there is a wee bit of sadness, but
I think as well, my generation is probably the first one that refuses to fully grow up. Right, my dad's generation, for example, got to my age, would have a completely different lifestyle, outlook on life to me. Whereas most of my friends still care about how they dress. They still go to gigs. They'll do stuff for their kids that they did themselves when they were in their 20s or teens. So we've still got a nostalgic element to life in the 80s and the 90s, and we don't quite want to let go of.
But I think we can thank music for that then. And the artists are still like it's a Paul Weller, and the Morrisseys and the Oasis, they're still relevant, and I think that's a great, and it's the kind of thing, it is the gift that keeps on giving as we go through certain all these stages of life. It's the one constant that's always going to be there, and then to listen to the Wildwood for you or whatever it is, man, there's a feeling that comes with that. If you listen to that tonight, mate, is there an experience that you would have? Is it like an old friend or a blanket or a hug, or is it just a...
Well, I think my relationship with Paul Weller in general, right, my love of Paul Weller's music, it's gave me some of my closest pals who share the same passion for it, right?
Wow.
Not just because we go and see Weller together, but because they're probably similar people to me, right? But also I think if I'm somewhere strange and I'm somewhere out of my comfort zone, if I jump in my motor and I play Paul Weller away home, it's like I'm home again, I'm with my people.
Wow.
Or I'm in say if you're in a work environment you don't particularly enjoy, you leave the end of that day, stick the jam on, till you get home, you're happy again.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? Because you've got a connection to this tribe and these people, this sound, and it's your thing. Well, me and my mate spoke this recently, there's certain bands, I think, The Jam being one of them, and I think Oasis being the other one, most people I knew felt they were the biggest Jam fan in the world, or they felt they were the biggest Oasis fan in the world. But it was, to them they were. And to them it was their band. But the beautiful thing about getting bands like Oasis, it was everybody's band. So when you were out somewhere, Don't Look Back Anger come on, and everybody in the whole place sang it in unison, there was a unity and a brotherhood there with that song. And that's part of the special thing about music. It can be your thing, but it's also everybody's. So I think that's a really special thing about music.
Brilliant, mate. And what a beautiful way you describe it, and I think that's maybe a great way to end the podcast, just talking about our love and the beauty of music, live music and everything in between, mate. So I'll just
pleasure, Alan. Thank you very much
for being our first guest and part of the Music is a Therapy podcast. We'll be back in a fortnight with a guest who we'll have the same, or we'll just sitting down for an informal chat and exploring, having a wee deep dive into our next interviewees' taste in music and what it brings to them. So with that, I'll thank you all for listening. Thanks Ian for my guest. Thanks Chris for being the tech man, and we'll see you all soon. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers, guys.